I've been a runner for years. There's something about it, the rhythm of my feet, the burn in my lungs, the way the world falls away. I live in a small town, surrounded by miles of forest and dirt trails, the kind of place where you can go hours without seeing another soul. It's perfect for running, especially early in the morning, when the air is cool and the woods are quiet, just the sound of birds and my own breathing. I've always felt safe out there, even though I run alone. I know the trails like the back of my hand, every turn, every hill, every shortcut. I've never had a reason to be afraid, not until last month. My routine is the same every day. I'm up at 5 a.m., before the sun's even thinking about rising, and I'm out the door by 5:15. I live on the edge of town, where the pavement turns to gravel and the forest takes over. There's a trailhead a quarter-mile from my house, a narrow path that winds through the pines, up a ridge, and down to a creek before looping back. It's about 6 miles round trip, a good hour's run if I push myself. I don't bring much, just my phone, zipped into a pocket on my running belt, and a small can of pepper spray, more for stray dogs than anything else. I've never needed it. I don't even listen to music. I like the quiet, the way I can hear the forest waking up around me. That morning, a Tuesday, started like any other. It was late September, the air crisp, the ground dusted with frost that crunched under my shoes. The sky was still dark, just a hint of gray at the horizon, and a thin fog hung low, clinging to the trees like a shroud. I stretched on my porch, my breath fogging in the cold, and started down the road to the trailhead. The streetlights were still on, casting weak pools of light, but they faded as I reached the forest, the darkness swallowing me whole. I switched on my headlamp, a narrow beam cutting through the fog, and settled into my pace, my shoes thudding softly on the dirt. The first mile was uneventful. The trail climbed steadily, the pines looming on either side, their branches knitting together overhead, blocking out what little light there was. I could hear the usual sounds, owls hooting, the rustle of small animals in the underbrush, the faint trickle of the creek in the distance. My headlamp bobbed with each step, throwing shadows that danced across the path, but I was used to that. I'd run this trail in the dark 100 times. The shadows didn't bother me. I crested the ridge, my breath coming harder now, and started the descent toward the creek, the trail narrowing as it wound through a denser part of the forest. That's when I heard it. A snap, sharp and deliberate, like a branch breaking underfoot. I stopped, my headlamp sweeping the trees, my breath loud in the silence. The forest was still, the fog thicker here, curling around the trunks like smoke. I listened, my heart picking up, but there was nothing. Just the drip of water from the leaves, the faint hoot of an owl. I told myself it was a deer, maybe a raccoon, and started running again, a little faster this time, my headlamp bouncing with each stride. A few minutes later, I heard it again, another snap, closer this time, off to my right. I stopped, turned, my light cutting through the fog, but the beam didn't reach far, just a few feet before the dark took over. I called out, my voice small in the vastness of the woods, asking if anyone was there. No answer, just the echo of my own words, swallowed by the trees. I stood there, my chest tight, listening, but the forest was silent again. I started running, my pace quicker now, my eyes darting to the sides of the trail, the shadows seeming to shift and stretch in ways they hadn't before. I reached the creek, the halfway point, and stopped to catch my breath. The water was low, a thin trickle over the rocks, the sound almost soothing. I bent down, hands on my knees, my headlamp casting a circle of light on the ground. That's when I saw it. A footprint in the mud, just off the trail, where the bank sloped down to the water. It wasn't mine. I'd stopped short of the mud, and my shoes had a distinct tread, a zigzag pattern from my trail runners. This print was different, larger, deeper, with a smooth sole, like a work boot. It was fresh, the edges sharp, the mud still wet, like someone had been here minutes ago. My stomach dropped. I wasn't alone. I straightened, my headlamp sweeping the trees, but the fog was too thick, the light bouncing back like a wall. I called out again, louder this time, my voice cracking, asking who was there. No answer, just the trickle of the creek, the rustle of leaves in the wind. I looked at the footprint again, my mind racing. It could have been a hiker, I told myself, someone out early like me, but I knew that wasn't right. I'd never seen another soul on this trail at this hour, not in the 3 years I'd been running it. And the print, it was pointed toward me, like whoever made it had been standing there, watching the trail, waiting. I started running again, back the way I'd come, my pace faster now, my breath coming in sharp gasps. The trail climbed back up to the ridge, the incline steep, my legs burning, but I didn't slow down. I kept hearing sounds, snaps, rustles, the crunch of leaves, always just behind me, just out of sight. I'd stop, turn, my headlamp searching, but there was nothing, just the fog and the trees and the dark. My mind was playing tricks, I told myself. The isolation and the dark getting to me, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched, that something was out there, keeping pace, staying just beyond my light. I was halfway up the ridge when I heard the voice. It was low, rough, barely above a whisper, but it cut through the silence like a blade. "Keep running," it said, from somewhere to my left, deep in the trees. I froze, my headlamp whipping toward the sound, my heart slamming against my ribs. The fog swallowed the light, but I thought I saw something, a shape, tall and broad, standing between the trunks just at the edge of my vision. I blinked, and it was gone, the trees empty, the forest silent again. I called out, my voice shaking, demanding to know who was there, but there was no answer, just the echo of my words, fading into the dark. I ran faster, my legs screaming, my lungs on fire, the trail a blur under my feet. The sounds were louder now. Snaps, thuds, the crunch of boots on dirt, always behind me, always closer. I didn't stop, didn't look back, just ran, my headlamp bouncing, the light barely keeping up with my pace. I crested the ridge, the trail leveling out, the last mile stretching ahead, the promise of the trailhead, the road, my house, so close but so far. I could hear my pulse in my ears, my breath ragged, the forest pressing in on all sides, the fog so thick I could barely see 10 feet ahead. That's when I saw the knife. It was lying on the trail, right in the middle of the path, glinting in the beam of my headlamp. A hunting knife, the blade long and sharp, the handle wrapped in worn leather, stained with something dark. Mud, maybe, or something worse. I stopped, my chest heaving, staring at it, my mind racing. It hadn't been there on my way out. I'd have seen it, tripped over it. Someone had put it there, someone who'd been here, who'd known I'd come back this way. I looked around, my headlamp sweeping the trees, but the fog was a wall. The forest silent except for the pounding of my own heart. I didn't touch the knife. I stepped around it, my legs shaking, and started running again, faster than I'd ever run. The trailhead so close now, the promise of safety driving me forward. But the sounds were still there. Snaps, thuds, the crunch of boots, closer now. So close, I could almost feel the breath on my neck. I didn't look back, didn't stop, just ran, the forest a blur, the fog a shroud, the dark a living thing, chasing me all the way home. I ran like my life depended on it, because I was starting to think it did. The trailhead was so close now, just a few 100 yards, but the forest felt endless, the fog suffocating. It pressed in from all sides. My headlamp flickered with every step, the beam barely cutting through the haze. The sounds behind me didn't stop. Snaps, thuds, the heavy crunch of boots on dirt, always just a few steps back, always just out of sight. I didn't dare look, didn't dare slow down, my legs burning, my lungs screaming, my heart a hammer in my chest. All I could think about was that knife, its blade glinting in my light, the dark stains on the handle, the way it had been placed so deliberately, like a message, like a trap. I burst out of the trailhead, the gravel road a sudden shock under my feet, the forest giving way to the open sky, still dark but lighter now, the gray of dawn creeping in. I didn't stop, didn't look back, just sprinted down the road toward my house, my shoes slipping on the loose stones, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The streetlights were still on, their weak glow a lifeline, guiding me to my porch. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking so badly I dropped them, the metal clattering on the wood. I snatched them up, jammed the key into the lock, and threw the door open, slamming it shut behind me. I turned the deadbolt, slid the chain into place, and backed away, my chest heaving, my eyes locked on the door, waiting for the sound of boots, the scrape of that knife. It didn't come. The house was silent, just the sound of my own breathing, harsh and uneven, echoing in the small space. I stood there, frozen, listening, but there was nothing. No footsteps, no snaps, no low, rough voice whispering through the fog. I crept to the window, keeping the lights off, and peered through the blinds. The street was empty, the trailhead a dark smudge in the distance, the forest beyond it a wall of shadow. I watched for a long time, my breath fogging the glass, but nothing moved, nothing came. I started to think maybe I'd imagined it, the voice, the knife, the sounds. Maybe it was just a hiker, someone playing a sick prank, and my mind had turned it into something worse. But I couldn't shake the image of that footprint, the way it had been pointed toward me, like someone had been waiting, watching. I didn't sleep that day. I sat on the couch, the pepper spray in one hand, my phone in the other, debating whether to call the police. But what would I say? I heard noises in the woods, saw a footprint, found a knife. I didn't have the knife. I'd left it on the trail, too scared to touch it. I didn't have a description of the man, if there even was a man. Just a shape in the fog. A voice I couldn't be sure I'd heard. They'd think I was crazy, or worse, they'd go out there and find nothing, and I'd be the guy who cried wolf. I couldn't do it. I told myself I'd go back in the daylight, look for the knife, see if there were more footprints, anything to prove I wasn't losing it. I didn't go back that day. I couldn't. Every time I thought about stepping outside, my stomach twisted, my hands started to shake, and I'd see that knife in my mind, the dark stains on the handle, the way it had been placed so perfectly in my path. I stayed inside, blinds drawn, doors locked, jumping at every sound, the creak of the house settling, the wind rattling the windows, the hum of the fridge. I kept checking my phone, scrolling through local news, looking for anything that might explain what I'd seen. There'd been a string of disappearances in the county over the past year. Hikers, mostly, gone missing on trails not far from mine. The police suspected a serial killer, someone who knew the woods, who could move without being seen. They'd found bodies, some of them, buried in shallow graves, always with a hunting knife left nearby, the blade stained with blood. I read the articles over and over, my throat tight, my mind racing. It couldn't be, I told myself. It was just a coincidence. But I couldn't stop seeing that knife, couldn't stop hearing that voice. Keep running. The next day, I forced myself to go back. I waited until noon, when the sun was high, the fog burned off, the forest bright and alive with birdsong. I drove to the trailhead, my pepper spray in hand, my phone fully charged, ready to take pictures if I found anything. The trail looked different in the daylight, smaller, less menacing. The trees just trees. The shadows just shadows. I walked slowly, my eyes scanning the ground, looking for the spot where I'd seen the knife. It took me a while to find it. The trail all looks the same in the light, but I knew I was close when I saw the ridge, the descent to the creek. I kept going, my heart pounding, until I reached the spot. The knife was gone. I stood there, staring at the ground, my stomach sinking. The dirt was disturbed, scuffed like someone had been here, but there was no knife, no sign of it. I looked for the footprint by the creek, but the mud had dried, the print gone, smoothed over by the wind, or an animal, or someone. I walked the trail back to the trailhead, searching for anything. More footprints, a broken branch, a scrap of fabric. But there was nothing. Just the forest, quiet and still, like it was holding its breath. I made it back to my car, my hands shaking, my mind racing. I'd been so sure I'd find something, some proof I wasn't imagining it. But there was nothing. I drove home, locked the doors, and sat there, staring at the wall, trying to convince myself it was over. It wasn't. That night, I heard a noise. A soft tap like a finger on glass, coming from my bedroom window. I was on the couch, the lights off, my phone in my hand, scrolling through more news articles about the disappearances. I froze, my breath catching, the tap coming again, slow and deliberate. I crept to the window, keeping low, and peered through the blinds. The street was empty. The trail had a dark smudge in the distance, but there on the glass was a smudge. A faint, greasy handprint. Too big to be mine, pressed against the outside. I stumbled back, my heart in my throat, and grabbed the pepper spray, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I checked every window, every door, locked, all locked. But the handprint was there, a silent message, a mark. The next morning, I found something else. On my porch, right by the door, was a small pile of dirt, fresh and damp, like it had been dug up from the forest. In the middle of the pile was a single pine needle, the kind that littered the trail, and a scrap of paper folded in half. I didn't want to touch it, didn't want to look, but I had to know. I picked it up, my hands trembling, and unfolded it. Inside, in shaky, uneven handwriting, was a single word: run. I dropped it and looked around, the street empty, the forest silent, but I could feel it. Eyes on me, watching, waiting. I haven't run since. I can't. Every time I think about going back to the trail, I see that knife, hear that voice, feel those eyes. I've started driving to a gym in the city, running on a treadmill, but even there, I can't shake the feeling I'm being watched. I keep finding things. More dirt on my porch, more handprints on my windows, always at night, always when I'm alone. I've thought about calling the police, but what do I have? A handprint, some dirt, a note. They'd say I'm paranoid, that I'm imagining it, but I know I'm not. I've read the news, seen the reports. The killer's still out there, still hunting, and I think he's chosen me. I don't know how much longer I can keep running, how much longer I can hide. If you're ever out in the woods, alone, and you hear a snap, a voice, a step, don't stop. Don't look back. Just run, and don't stop until you're safe. Because he's out there, and he's waiting. That's where that story ends. A forest trail, a knife, and a shadow that wouldn't stop hunting. It's the kind of thing that makes you think twice about running alone in the wild. But while I was still shaken by that one, another tale found its way to me, and it's just as chilling. This time, it's a woman, a coastal cliff, and two shadows with a different kind of intent, waiting where the ocean meets the dark. Here's the next one. I've always loved running by the ocean. There's something about the salt air, the crash of the waves, the way the horizon stretches out forever. It clears my head, makes me feel alive. I'm 28, a graphic designer, and I live in a small coastal town on the Pacific, the kind of place where the cliffs drop straight into the sea and the nearest city is a 2-hour drive. It's quiet here, isolated, but that's what I love about it. I moved here a year ago after a bad breakup, looking for a fresh start, and the trails along the cliffs have become my sanctuary. I run almost every evening, just as the sun starts to set, when the sky turns gold and the world feels like it's holding its breath. The trail I run is a few miles out of town, a narrow path that hugs the cliff's edge, winding through patches of wild grass and stunted cypress trees, their branches twisted by the wind. It's remote. No houses, no roads nearby, just the trail, the cliffs, and the ocean below, 100 feet down, the waves churning against the rocks. There's a parking lot at the trailhead, a small gravel patch with a faded sign warning about the drop. But I rarely see other cars. Sometimes I'll pass a hiker or a dog walker, but most evenings, it's just me, the wind, and the sea. I've always felt safe out here, even though I run alone. I bring my phone tucked into a pocket on my leggings and a small keychain alarm, the kind that screeches if you pull the pin. I've never needed it. I don't even listen to music. I like the sound of the waves, the gulls, the rhythm of my own steps on the dirt. That evening, a Wednesday in early October, started like any other. It had been a long day, client deadlines, endless revisions, and I needed the run to shake it off. The sun was low, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the air cool with a bite of salt. I parked my car at the trailhead, the lot empty as usual, and stretched against the hood, the wind tugging at my ponytail. The trail stretched out ahead, a thin ribbon of dirt along the cliff, the ocean an endless expanse of gray-blue to my left. I started running, my pace steady, my shoes kicking up small clouds of dust, the waves a constant roar below. The first mile was uneventful, the trail climbing gently, the cypress trees casting long shadows as the sun dipped lower. I could feel the stress of the day melting away, my breathing syncing with my steps, the world narrowing to just me and the path. I was about 2 miles in, near a spot where the trail curves around a sharp bend, the cliff dropping straight down to the rocks, when I heard something, a low whistle, sharp and deliberate, cutting through the sound of the waves. I slowed, my head turning toward the sound, but the trail was empty, the grass on either side swaying in the wind. I stopped, my breath coming in quick puffs, and listened. The whistle came again, 2 short notes from somewhere up ahead, near a cluster of cypress trees where the trail dipped out of sight. I squinted, the sun low enough now to glare in my eyes, but I couldn't see anything, just the trees, the grass, the endless drop to the ocean. I called out, my voice small against the wind, asking if anyone was there. No answer, just the crash of the waves, the cry of a gull overhead. I started running again, slower this time, my eyes scanning the trail, the whistle echoing in my mind. It could have been a bird, I told myself, or the wind through the trees, but it didn't feel right. It felt human, intentional, like a signal. I kept going, the trail curving around the bend, the cypress trees looming closer, their shadows stretching across the path like fingers. That's when I saw them, 2 figures, standing just off the trail, half hidden by the trees, their shapes dark against the fading light. I stopped, my heart lurching. They were men, both of them, tall and broad, dressed in dark jackets and jeans, their faces shadowed by the hoods pulled low over their heads. One was leaning against a tree, his arms crossed, the other standing a few feet away, his hands in his pockets, both of them facing me. I couldn't see their eyes, but I could feel them, heavy and unblinking, watching me. The one by the tree whistled again, 2 short notes, the same sound I'd heard, and the other let out a low chuckle, the sound carrying on the wind, cold and sharp. I took a step back, my hand instinctively going to the keychain alarm in my pocket, my fingers fumbling with the pin. I called out again, louder this time, asking what they wanted, my voice shaking but firm. The one by the tree tilted his head, like he was studying me, and the other took a step forward, his boots crunching on the dirt. The one by the tree chuckled again, a sound that sent a shiver down my spine, and I noticed his hand move, slipping into his jacket, pulling something out, a glint of metal, small but sharp, a pocket knife, the blade catching the last of the sunlight. I didn't wait to see more. I turned and ran, back the way I'd come, my pace frantic, my shoes slipping on the dirt as the trail sloped downward. I could hear them behind me, boots on the ground, heavy and fast, the low murmur of their voices, one of them laughing, the sound sharp and cruel. I didn't look back, didn't dare, just ran, the cliff to my left, the drop a constant threat, the ocean roaring below. The trail was narrow here, barely wide enough for one person, the edge crumbling in places, small rocks skittering over the side as I ran. I could feel the wind at my back, cold and biting, pushing me forward. But it wasn't enough. Their steps were closer now, the crunch of their boots louder, their presence a weight I could feel, pressing in on me from behind. I reached a straight stretch, the trail leveling out, the parking lot still a mile away, my car a small gray shape under the last streetlight, a distant hope. I risked a glance over my shoulder, my headlamp long since turned off to save battery, the last of the daylight fading fast. They were there, maybe 50 yards back, moving at a steady pace, not running but walking fast, their strides long and purposeful, like they knew I couldn't outrun them forever. The one in front had his knife out now, the blade open, glinting in the dim light, and the other was holding something, a rope maybe, or a strap, dangling from his hand, swinging with each step. They weren't hiding anymore, weren't pretending, just coming for me, their intent clear in the way they moved, the way they watched. I kept running, the trail a blur under my feet. The wind was stronger now, howling off the ocean, the waves a constant roar, drowning out their steps but not their presence. I could see the parking lot now, a faint smudge in the distance. My car, a small gray shape under the streetlight, but it was still so far, too far, and they were gaining, their steps louder, their shadows stretching closer. I ran faster than I ever had, my legs screaming, my lungs burning, the trail a narrow ribbon of dirt between the cliff's edge and the wild grass. The parking lot was so close now, my car a gray beacon, but the men were closer, their boots thudding on the ground, their breaths a low, steady rhythm behind me. I could hear the one with the rope shift something in his hand, the faint clink of metal against metal, a sound that made my blood run cold, and the other's knife scraped against his jacket. A soft, deliberate sound that echoed in the wind. I reached into my pocket, my fingers fumbling for the keychain alarm, the small plastic device slick with sweat. I yanked the pin, and the alarm screeched to life, a high-pitched wail that cut through the roar of the waves, echoing off the cliffs. I hoped it would startle them, slow them down, maybe draw attention from someone, anyone. But the trail was too remote, the town too far, and their steps didn't falter. The sound seemed to sharpen their focus, the one with the knife quickening his pace, the other matching him, their movements synchronized, predatory, like they'd done this before. The parking lot was right there, my car so close I could see the dent on the driver's door, the streetlight casting a weak pool of light on the gravel. I sprinted the last few yards, my shoes hitting the gravel with a crunch, my hands fumbling for my keys as I reached the car. I dropped them, the metal clattering on the ground, and I cursed, dropping to my knees, my fingers scrabbling in the dirt. I heard their boots hit the gravel behind me, so close now. Too close. The one with the knife's shadow falling over me, long and dark, the blade glinting in the streetlight's glow. I grabbed the keys, my hands shaking, and jammed them into the lock, the door finally clicking open. I threw myself inside, slamming the door shut, my fingers fumbling with the lock as a hand slammed against the window, the glass shuddering under the impact. It was the one with the knife, his face pressed close, his hood fallen back, revealing a hard, angular face, his eyes wild with something dark, something hungry. He pounded on the window, the knife in his other hand scraping against the glass, leaving a long, screeching mark. The other man was at the passenger side, yanking at the handle, the rope still in his hand, his face shadowed, but his movements frantic, desperate. I screamed, my hands shaking as I shoved the key into the ignition, the engine roaring to life. The one with the knife slammed his fist against the window again, the glass cracking under the force, a spiderweb of fractures spreading from his hand. The other man moved to the front, his hands on the hood, trying to block me, the rope dangling like a noose. I threw the car into reverse, my foot slamming on the gas, the tires spinning on the gravel as I peeled out of the parking lot. The man at the window jumped back, his knife slashing at the air, the other stumbling as the car lurched backward, nearly hitting him. I spun the wheel, shifted into drive, and floored it, the car shooting down the road, the streetlight fading in my rear-view mirror. I didn't stop, didn't slow down, just drove, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles were white, my breath coming in sharp, panicked gasps. I kept checking my mirrors, expecting to see headlights, expecting them to follow, but the road was empty, the night swallowing them whole. I drove straight to the police station in town, my hands still shaking, my heart still pounding, the screech of the alarm still echoing in my ears. I burst through the doors, my voice a jumbled mess as I tried to explain. The men, the knife, the rope, the chase. The officer on duty, an older man with tired eyes, listened, his face unreadable, and called for backup to check the trail. They didn't find them. The parking lot was empty, the trail deserted, no sign of the men, no knife, no rope. They found my tire tracks, the scuff marks where I'd peeled out, but that was it. The officer asked if I'd seen their faces, if I could describe them, but it had been too dark. The one with the knife, the only face I'd seen clearly, and even that was a blur of fear. Hard jaw, wild eyes, a scar across his cheek. They took my statement, said they'd patrol the area, but I could tell they didn't believe me. Not fully. They thought I'd overreacted, that maybe I'd seen some hikers, let my imagination run wild. I didn't argue, didn't push. I just wanted to go home. I haven't run on that trail since. I can't. Every time I think about going back, I hear their laughter. I keep seeing shadows in the parking lot, hearing low whistles on the wind. Always two notes, always the same. Last week, I found a scratch on my car, long and deep, right where the man had scraped his knife, and a piece of rope, tied in a small loop, left on my windshield. I don't know if it's them, if they're still out there, or if I'm losing my mind, but I know I'm not safe. I've thought about moving, leaving this town, but I'm scared they'll follow, that they'll find me, that they'll finish what they started. I'm writing this because I need someone to know. If you're ever running alone, on a trail, by the ocean, and you hear a whistle, 2 sharp notes, don't stop. Don't look. Just run, and don't stop until you're safe. Because they're out there, and they're waiting. I don't think they'll ever stop. That's it for tonight. If these stories hit you, drop a comment and tell me. Did they get under your skin? Hit the like if you felt it, and subscribe for more. Turn on notifications too. The next one's coming. Until then, sleep light.